Giving him a choice to be free from bondage, free your spirit. By Natalie Mantle, Meditation for Freedom. The Garden of Eden is a paradise of perfection. It's a symbolic reference to what was once the natural state of humanity. Those who resided within Eden were pure. They knew of only goodness and virtues. They were the reflections of Elohim. They embodied the 7 virtues of the soul. However, this garden has never existed in the physical world, known as the Garden of Adam and Eve. However, through research of esoteric wisdom, it has been discovered and confirmed that there was a physical place called Eden, which is located in southern Mesopotamia, now known as Iraq, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers run into the sea. A mystery school was founded here by the Chaldeans, but this was not the Eden of Adam and Eve. Tree of Life, Kabbalah Science. Symbolic trees, hidden meanings, Kabbalah. Within every human, Elohim created roots. These roots are your connection to the Devon, with the tree of life being within the crown of your chakra. There are 2 trees that are highlighted throughout religion and religious teachings: the tree of life and the tree of good and evil. These 2 trees are symbolic, not literal, as some may think, referenced in many teachings, such as the tree in which the Buddha Shakyamuni found enlightenment, tree of life of the Aztecs, Yggdrasil tree, Norse cosmology, supporting existence, Quran, the burning tree on Mount Sinai, Kaiba, used as the world tree of the Mayans. The science of the tree of life is called Kabbalah. The science of the tree of life in Judaism is called Kabbalah. This wisdom and knowledge is universal and can be found in many religions. Secrecy and symbolism has it appear under many names. The science of the tree of life, as represented on the left, is a map of the universe and of the human soul, as the tree of life maps the expansive universe, macrocosmos. It also maps the microcosmos, being human, who is the reflection of the universe. A symbolization of the structure of the human soul and the structure of creation. Its roots are represented in the highest realms, and its branches and leaves represent all the worlds and beings in existence. This tree gives food, life, wisdom and sustenance to all whom consume it. Forbidden fruits, tree of good and evil. The 2 trees, as referenced in the religious teachings, Adam and Eve, were free to eat from the tree of life. Behind the cloak, this means that they were free to feed themselves with the science from the tree of life, understanding and wisdom, Kabbalah, and the science of God, activating a fully awakened consciousness. Crown chakra. A fully awakened consciousness is represented behind the cloak as the Christmas tree when fully lit. It is a symbol of the tree of life, as passed down through the ages of occult knowledge and traditions. When a person has a fully illuminated consciousness, all senses are fully opened and activated, providing a direct personal relationship with God. Darth means knowledge and is represented in the Kabbalah, which traditionally is never spoken of, so the term gnosis is used instead. It is the science of the great arcanum, which is or was secret knowledge only known within secret societies. The forbidden tree in the garden. The tree of knowledge of good and evil was forbidden to Adam and Eve. They were told not to eat of it, or they would die. Adam and Eve, as told in religion, were tempted by the one thing that could not have the forbidden tree. Behind the cloak, knowledge means sexuality. Darth or gnosis is a direct reference to sexuality. Below I will explain what connection behind the cloak this has to the serpent and the forbidden tree Adam and Eve ate from, which relates to my androgynous being post about separation. The 2 serpents, Adam and Eve. The 2 serpents, Adam and Eve. When Adam and Eve were separated into 2 sexes by Elohim, man and women still carried the elements of both male and female within them. Adam and Eve are represented as polarized energy, as seen in the ancient cultures and current symbols of the caduceus. If you are not sure what this is, it is the picture in last section of the 2 snakes around a staff, or below. The 2 snakes, serpents, have always symbolized the masculine and feminine energetic channels that wind up our spine. They are energetic, so would not be able to be found by man but accessed through vibration. The root of the serpents is yesid, known as the foundation of man, which are the sexual organs. We feed species through sexual energy. These channels of energy are called many names. Ida and Pingala in Sanskrit, which is the classical language of Indian and the liturgical language of Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. Od and Obi in the Kabbalah and secret societies. Adam and Eve in Christianity. Also known in scriptures as the two olive trees. Seen as the two candlestick or as the two pillars in Freemasonry standing before the God of the earth. Adam and Eve. The two serpents wind up the spinal column of your physical body. The spine represents the rod. Your spine is the center of your physical body and the central column of your temple. Crown chakra. The column stands upon the foundation known as yesod, the sexual energy. Your spine, rod, has 33 vertebrates, symbolized by the 33 years of the life of Jesus of Nazareth and the 33 degrees of the Freemasons. Adam's is the masculine aspect, Eve is the feminine aspect. It is the energy of Eve, the female aspect, that pushes for procreation. Hence why Eve was tempted to eat from the forbidden tree of good and evil. Was a symbol of humanity desiring the fruits of sexuality such as children. But until this time humanity was not allowed to have children created on their own. They were forbidden from eating that fruit. Opening parenthesis. The poison apple. Eating the forbidden fruit. Forbidden fruits. Adam and Eve were told if you eat the fruit you are not going to die as you were told. However, as soon as you eat of it your eyes will be opened and you'll know what the Elohim knows. Becoming divine beings knowing good and bad. Tempted by the serpent they chose to procreate of their own will, disobeying Elohim. But in their innocence they did not realize that the law of not eating from the forbidden tree was there for good reason and for their own good. Procreation without the guidance of Elohim leads to the discovery of the orgasm. Before eating from the tree of good and evil, Adam and Eve only knew good. In their ignorance they did not think of the consequences of eating from the tree. The Holy Spirit, immaculate conception. When a man and women engage in a sexual act, tremendous energy is harnessed. It is in this state that a man and women have the God-given capacity to create a not just life. Man acting as the active force, the reflection of God the Father, and women acting as the receptive force of God the Mother, and sex being the active force that brings them together, creating the Holy Spirit. This is the real meaning behind the symbol, the Trinity. The Trinity is a unit of three that express themselves as one. In order to create this one, divides itself into two, male and female. This is the mystery of the Holy Spirit, the force that combines the two, symbolized by Shiva through history as the creative and destructive force of God. Also symbolized by fire and water and by light, the sexual waters of creation. Sexual waters. Using the power of sexual energy and creation, it requires great responsibility. At the time of Adam and Eve, sex was only practiced at the temples under the guidance of the Elohim. Humanity was being guided in this holy ritual by Gabriel, as indicated by his reoccurrence in the religious Bibles, announcing the arrival of children. Behind the cloak Gabriel is the region of the moon and influences all forms of conception on earth. The wasteful expulsion of semen through the orgasm is and never has been required when creating life. This is the hidden meaning behind immaculate conception, as all life is created through the Trinity of harnessing sexual energy. The word immaculate means perfectly clean. This is why in religion they say when a man spills the sacred fluid he needs to bathe his whole body in water but will still remain unclean until evening. The orgasm. To indulge in the forbidden fruits of sexuality means to spill the sexual energy to orgasm. Tasting the divine energy that illuminates the soul in order to feel physical pleasure and sensation. But this is the energy which maintains the physical well-being of the individual but is expelled through the orgasm. It is important that the energy created that gives man the ability to create be used sufficiently. as it is connected to the same life force that maintains your vitality, keeping your 7 superior senses intact. This is what unites mankind to the divine. Altruism, chastity, love, right action, temperance, humility, happiness for others. Adam and Eve ate their forbidden fruit from the tree of good and evil, abusing the sexual energy in the bodies by having the orgasm. So they broke the only rule they had been given. We expel the sexual energy, we expel the energy that fuels our inner sense. People who fornicate expel the divine sexual energy through the orgasm, cannot perceive God directly. Poison for the soul, divine energy. Eternal sleep, potion for the soul. The orgasm is represented in religion as the fruit eaten from the tree of good and evil. Whilst sex is pleasurable and very tempting due to the power it creates to our physical senses, eating it is poisonous to our soul, and by eating it we end up in a state of eternal sleep. This means we lose touch with who we really are, losing our connection to the divine. Also losing our connections to the higher realms of nature and reality, living only within the matrix. Elohim gave the order to Adam and Eve not to eat from this tree, and that was the reason. As before they abused the use of the tree of knowledge, sex was treated with respect and dignity, and the orgasm was unknown to mankind and was unnecessary. Divine sex. Adam and Eve's eyes were made open after eating from the tree. They knew that they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together to make clothes. The acts of sexual connections before the temptation from the Garden of Eden we carried out under the guidance of Jehovah Elohim and enjoyed sex in accordance with the laws given to them. They enjoyed the tree of knowledge, sexuality, but did not eat of its fruit. The knowledge that came from the tree was good and evil, as when Adam and Eve ate from the tree, they discovered desire, which will always lead to suffering and pain within the human. This is represented as the Pandora's box in Greek mythology, as when opened release evil into the world, such as pride, fear, evil, shame, jealousy, desire, ego, separation. Through the discovery of the orgasm, Adam and Eve did learn new knowledge as promised by the serpent. They gained the knowledge of suffering, shame, and all of the above. What the Elohim knew, divine knowledge. With this newly gained knowledge, right and wrong now becomes hazy, as one wants to feel pleasure but without feeling pain or suffering. Adam and Eve now knew what the Elohim knew, which was all desire leads to suffering. Knowing what is good and what is evil, they had only ever known good, purity, and simplicity. Now humanity knew of Pandora's box and the evil within. The fallen angels. Desire caused all the gods within the garden to fall from their places, being cast out of the 4th dimension into the 3rd dimension, the world of suffering, as it's desire that leads all creatures to hell. Behind the cloak, hell is not a physical place, it's a mental state and vibration. The slave of desire is a slave of sin, so only suffering and death can await him. Through the abandonment of desire, the deathly state is realized. When we desire something, it becomes a craving, and all cravings from desire lead to suffering. Adam and Eve were cast out of the Garden of Eden by Jehovah Elohim to wander in a world of suffering and ignorance, and told to the woman, "Only in pain shall you bear children." After eating from the tree and rejecting the laws set out by Elohim, mankind attempted to have children on their own, causing conception and childbirth to happen outside of the natural balance of nature. As a result, this brought more pain and hardship to mankind, because mankind was using the sexual energy to stimulate desire and pleasure. The snake of Eve, as represented in the caduceus, became inverted, flowing in the opposite direction. The serpent fell, which is known as the tail of Satan, stimulating and feeding off the 7 capital sins, filling the void, disconnection from the divine. Eden exists within every human and can be found when we refrain from spilling the sacred energy. We stay connected to the divine. When we expel this sacred energy, we detach ourselves from the divine, removing us from Eden. To replace this void and disconnection from the divine, man created civilizations, religions, seeking power, sexual satisfaction and material wealth to fill the void that is missing. Now man in 2019 has only been left with a trace of the divine Elohim. This disconnection from the divine is documented in religious stories such as Delilah and Samson. However, they are not revealing what's behind the cloak as written above. The gateway back to Eden has never been locked, but entrance is only granted to those who have conquered the two snakes, the serpents within, reaching a state of gnosis, death. Hope this answered your questions. I will soon be covering how to raise the two serpent snakes, the Kundalini, from Yesod to Keter. For more occult knowledge, arts, crafts, clothing and wisdom, see links below. Natalie Mantle.